Could Trump's new tariff be the tipping point for a housing market crash? With rising construction costs, high mortgage rates, and shift in demand, many are wondering if we're on the verge of another 2008 style collapse or just the market correction. Well, let's dive in and find out. I'm sure you've heard quite often since COVID-19, oh, the housing market is going to crash. The housing market is going to crash. Well, what is a housing market crash? Well, a housing market crash occurs when home values plummet rapidly and significantly, often due to economic downturns, rise in mortgage defaults, and oversupply of homes. This leads to widespread foreclosures, negative equity, and severe impact on homeowners and the economy. We saw this in 2008 when risky lending and financial mismanagement triggered a wave of foreclosures, leading to a collapse in home values. Today's market conditions, however, are vastly different from 2008. Let's examine whether tariffs could lead to a housing market crash. On Saturday, President Trump, he imposed new tariffs, including 10% tariffs on goods from China, 25% tariffs on key imports from Canada and Mexico, impacting construction materials like lumber, aluminum, and steel. The administration argues that these tariffs will protect U.S. businesses, hold trading partners accountable, and address border security issues. However, industry experts warn that these trade policies could significantly affect home affordability and supply chain. Well, let's get into how these tariffs could impact the housing market. First and foremost, rising construction costs. So the National Association of Home Builders, NAHB, they sent a letter to President Trump warning him about the severe impact of these tariffs. Chairman Carl L. Harris stated, imposing additional tariffs on Canadian and Mexican building materials will only worsen the affordability crisis in the U.S. housing market. And since January 2021, material costs for residential construction has already surged by over 30%. And additional tariffs will push prices even higher. Lumber prices will likely increase, making new construction more expensive. And builders will then pass these costs on to buyers, pushing already high home prices even higher. This will reduce the housing affordability even more, especially for first-time home buyers who feels it the most. The second way that these tariffs could impact the housing market, it leads to higher mortgage rates and inflation risks. So the tariffs drives up costs, contributing to the overall inflation. The Federal Reserve is likely to keep interest rates high to combat inflation, making mortgages more expensive. And higher borrowing costs means fewer buyers entering the market. The Federal Reserve's latest statement, it warns that the economic uncertainty caused by new trade policies could definitely delay interest rate cuts, keeping mortgage rates elevated for longer. The third way it can impact the housing market, potential labor shortages. So many construction firms rely heavily on immigrant labor. Trade policies and stricter immigration enforcement, it could lead to labor shortages. Fewer workers equals slower home building, which means even tighter housing supply. Despite all these challenges, a housing market crash, it is unlikely. And here's why. While certain regions, such as parts of Florida, are experiencing a correction due to increased inventory, the national housing market remains undersupplied. Here in the Washington, D.C. metro area, the housing market remains resilient. With the new administration, some agencies are hiring, and federal employees must now return to the office, which can in turn increase local housing demand. Throughout the D.C., Maryland, Virginia region, inventory is increasing, but the demand still outweighs supply, preventing any drastic price drops. In Montgomery County, Maryland, home prices increased to a median sale price of $610,000, still favoring sellers. Other reason we won't see a housing market crash, lending isn't the same as it was back in 2008. It is much more strict these days. Also, foreclosure levels are reportedly on the lower end compared to where they were in 2008. NAHB and real estate groups, they are already lobbying the administration to reduce tariffs on construction materials. If economic conditions worsen, the Federal Reserve could still step in with rate adjustments to prevent a severe downturn. While Trump's tariff will impact the housing market, particularly home affordability and new construction, the data does not support the idea of a full-on crash. Instead, we're seeing a market correction in some areas, while others, like the DC suburbs, remain strong. And if you're thinking about buying or selling in today's market, staying informed is key. So like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. So how do you think these tariffs will impact the US housing market? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Catch you on the next one. Bye.